everyone, and welcome to another episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle, the wrestling video podcast. I am hosting here on youtube.com/UC Campbell, and we're still looking for other variations to go. Now, we are doing this a little bit differently, just like I was doing a little bit this morning. We are going to do these live from now on. Yes, that's right. I'll be doing them live as they happen on my YouTube page. So we will be streaming this to go along with also recording it. I did have a little snafu. I did not record the GFW one, and it for some odd reason did not send anything to my video manager. So pretty much the only way to actually see that is in the playlist right now for GodSaw's Turnbuckles. That's about the only way to see it, though. But that was the little snafu that happened today. I'm going to be recording this at the exact same time as I am streaming this, so we won't have that issue this time around. But with that being said, we are going to be focusing today on Monday Night Raw for September 18th, 2017. And well, as you know, this was the go-home show for Raw. And to be honest with you, if it was just based off that first hour, I'm not too sure how I would have liked this Raw. I felt like a lot of stuff was a little bit forced. Especially after the whole Jason Jordan, Kurt Angle, Miz segment inside the ring area. The couple other things that happened in that first hour felt extremely forced and maybe wasn't absolutely necessary on that side. Afterwards, after that first hour, I thought it was a pretty good show to go along with everything. Some nice little nuances and touches to go along with everything in there. Also setting up for the main event later on in the evening. So they started off the show with Kurt Angle coming out. He was hyping No Mercy, going through the match with John Cena, Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar. He immediately gets interrupted by The Miz, and Miz was extremely tired of being overlooked. That's what he comes out and says. I'm tired of being overlooked. Again, we're not going to be having the Intercontinental title defended at a pay-per-view, at another major show. What's going on? Well, Kurt was going about everything. He was saying, about to get to an aspect of saying, you're going to have somebody at the pay-per-view. It's going to be the winner of a fatal four-way. So he names Matt and Jeff Hardy, Elias, and Jason Jordan. Now Miz starts playing the whole favoritism game. He goes off on Kurt, calling him a bat, doing the whole bit of calling him a bad father and what he's going to be like when he has his kid and everything to go along with it. I like the aspect of Miz using this to a certain degree. Like, he's not afraid to use the fact that he's going to have a child as part of his storylines going down the line here, and he's just playing off of it to go along with Kurt Angle. It's an interesting way of going. It's a nice way of going too. This does prompt Jason Jordan to come out after Miz runs down Kurt Angle a bunch. He threatens Miz, everything in that sense, and he ends out saying that he wants Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel to be put in the match. That way he can just prove himself even more when he ends out winning. Which then Kurt does put him in. Miz gives us like a little smarky remark towards Kurt Angle and everything in that sense, and putting down Jason Jordan, which causes Jason Jordan to attack the Miz and the Miz Taraj. They bail quickly afterwards. Afterwards, you had Kurt Angle backstage with Jason Jordan trying to cool him down. You have basically Jordan saying that he's getting sick and tired of hearing everybody talk about how he's getting privy to all these different things, and Kurt's basically like, what did you expect? Like, seriously, what did you expect? It's like he knew that was coming, and he was trying to basically cool him down and everything in that sense. And he says, just prove it out there in the ring, do everything in that sense. This was actually a little bit better. It makes you kind of feel that Jason Jordan's he's kind of cracking under the pressure of being with Kurt Angle, like the whole Kurt Angle son thing, and he's hearing whispers in the back and everything in that sense. So maybe this leads to something down the line with with Kurt Angle and Jason Jordan. At least that's where I feel like they'll end up going with it. So this leads us to the first match of the night, which was Alexa Bliss going up against Nia Jax. The beginning of this match was basically what you kind of expect before they went into the commercial break. It was Nia Jax kind of dominating a little bit, but Alexa doing this duck and dodge type thing where she gets hit once and then gets immediately out of the ring and tries to stall as much as possible. Eventually she's like, I've had enough of this, and was going to leave. Sasha Banks prevents her from doing so, and when she kind of gets backpedaled to the ring, she just runs right into Nia Jax. Like, Nia just comes in, bulldozes her. That's when they cut to commercial break, which you end up not seeing too much after the commercial break either. Right as they come back, probably about a minute or so later, Nia Jax ends out beating Alexa Bliss pretty handily. So they basically made it almost like a squash match. It makes you feel like Alexa's gonna probably not walk out with the title at the pay-per-view itself. So after the match, Sasha Banks actually attacks Nia Jax. She gets put down, and as she's kind of staring down, maybe potentially doing a little bit more damage to Sasha and Alexa, well, I won't say out of nowhere, but lo and behold, look who returns. It is Bayley. Bayley returns, decent pop, actually very good pop. No, being in her hometown, you kind of expected that. She comes down, kind of walking with, they were trying to make her walk with like a little bit of fire and everything behind her, so maybe they're trying to change her up a little bit going down the line here. I just wish they would have come up with a better way of having her return. And I'm not saying, oh, the whole hometown return thing was a bad idea. I think that was actually a good idea in that sense of everything. But having it, like, they should have made it to where she was the one that was basically the one that takes away Nia Jax. Like, afterwards, she kind of waits to get in the ring a little bit, and then Sasha and Alexa kind of surround Nia Jax, and then they do like a triple spear. So they get rid of Nia. So they continue on doing things. They continue on in the ring here after they've gotten rid of Nia Jax. You have this bit where, you have this hilarious bit where Bayley and Sasha do like a hug. And they're doing the whole jumping around thing. It almost made you think, it's like, wait a minute, are they going to turn, is she going to Bayley to belly Sasha and turn heel? No, it wasn't the case. They were just doing a jump around moment. And they go to celebrate one more time. Alexa gets in the way. They kind of both stare down. And Sasha does the knee to the face. Bayley does the Bayley to belly. Emma, nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found at all in this particular segment. Kind of sad on that one. That's kind of saddening on that one, that Emma doesn't go into there. And apparently, this is also going to be the way for Bayley to get her title shot that she was initially had won at on that Raw on one of those Raws before SummerSlam, where she became #1 contender. Because now they are going to add Bayley into the match, and it is going to be a fatal 5-way at the pay-per-view. I'll go with predictions late. I'll go with actual predictions later. But it's one of those bits. Are they going to play that trope as like, oh, the person who gets added in the last weekend's out winning? I'm not 100% certain they need to do that with Bayley right now. I feel like the way that they booked her, to a certain degree, she has to slowly but surely beat all of her demons. So having to beat Nia Jax, because she's had problems with Nia Jax over the last ever since main roster call up, everything in that sense. You know, beating Alexa Bliss, maybe doing something in the terms of an Extreme Rules type thing. Like, I feel like before she gets that title back, she needs to try to beat all of her demons before gaining the title back. But we'll see where they play off of everything and where they go along with everything on this one. But it makes you almost feel like that trope's going to happen where, okay, Bayley's been added in, now she's going to win the title because it's only been like a week since she's been added in, so people don't think she's going to win, so let's have her win. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't know, though. You know how WWE is. If it's an idea that seems like a good idea, but isn't a good idea, they might go with it. They might go with it in this one. I mean, I'm a big fan of Bayley's, but I don't feel like she needs that title right now. I feel like they need to play a storyline where she kind of beats all of her demons, then gains the title back at some point in time. So this brings us to what was going to be the Club versus Sheamus and Cesaro. Sheamus and Cesaro cut a promo basically saying that they're going to win the tag team titles back, that Rollins and Ambrose are nothing more than the Hardy Boys, a nostalgia act, everything in that sense. Actually, good promo. I like the promo that they delivered for the pay-per-view on Sunday. This does prompt Rollins and Ambrose to interrupt. They cut a very short promo. They really didn't get much to say in this one, which does, because they end up getting interrupted by the Club. Now, it's supposed to be Sheamus and Cesaro versus the Club. So now you have Rollins and Ambrose out there. Club do their normal shtick, which eventually leads to Dean Ambrose, after they called them nerds, where, like, to the point, stumbling over the words a little bit. They call them nerds like they typically call everyone else, which causes, apparently, Dean Ambrose to go completely insane. Apparently. And this does start a big brawl. Rollins and Ambrose clear the ring, and they cut the commercial break. When they come back from commercial break, lo and behold, it's now a triple threat. For no reason whatsoever. No reason whatsoever. Notes for this match, though. It was, a good match. It was just kind of thrown together. I didn't feel like it had any kind of purpose. I felt the match itself was really, really good. Given a lot of time as well. Just, again, didn't really serve much of a purpose outside of, I guess, putting the momentum on the side of Sheamus and Cesaro in that sense of everything. Sheamus and Cesaro as well, they also do a 3D. They did I don't know if it was supposed to be like a flapjack into an uppercut, but it was completely, it was totally a 3D that they did. So they kind of used the move of the Dudley Boys there for a brief moment. Sheamus and Cesaro do eventually pick up the victory over the Club after a blind tag was done to Dean Ambrose. And Dean Ambrose, of course, doesn't know about that. He will decide. He hit one of the Club members with the Dirty Deeds. Sheamus throws him out, gets the victory, and ends out picking up the victory in that case. So, like I said, I thought it was a good match. It was a fun match to watch. It really was. It just didn't really serve too much of a purpose to Sunday or anything in that sense. I mean, you got a little bit more of purposeful stuff later on in the show, not with that particular storyline, but with other storylines. You had a Goldust backstage, not promo, well, backstage segment with Kurt Angle. He was in Kurt Angle's office. He's without the face paint. Like with Bray Wyatt taking off his face paint for the week before, he decides to go without the face paint. So he's now not necessarily just talking as Goldust, he is talking as Dustin Rhodes. And he's basically wanting a match with Bray Wyatt again to kind of just prove that he's not a pawn in Bray Wyatt's little game with Finn Balor. Kurt eventually gives it to him, and that was basically what it was. I like this promo. The promo that they put in there was really good. Really well done. Maybe they decide to stick with the Dustin Rhodes thing for a little while. I don't know how long they'll stick with that, but we'll see how that one ends up playing out down the line here. So this brings us to Kurt Hawkins. Kurt Hawkins. They have him on here, and I don't know why this one. And maybe it's just because of the little nuances that they decided to do in this one. He talks about his losing streak and everything in that sense. And it's been kind of a thing that's been going on around Twitter and everything in that sense, that he's been on this big losing streak as of late. But it ends up, so he ends out saying it's like, instead of having the star-making factor, he's going to have the history. I forget what they said. I forget what he said. It was something about making history, though, throughout the entire time. And he challenges anyone to come out there, which ends up being Apollo Crews. Now, you thought this would be just like a quick squash match or something in that sense. It wasn't. Actually, they did a lot of teasing of Kurt Hawkins actually, beating Apollo Crews and potentially ending his losing streak. But eventually, Apollo Crews does take over and hits that spinning sit-out powerbomb. It's a great-looking powerbomb. I wish they could use Apollo Crews a little bit more. They called him up way too soon from NXT. I like the stuff that he's doing with Titus O'Neil, but we haven't seen him in a long time. We haven't seen Titus O'Neil, we haven't seen Apollo Crews, and we haven't seen Akira Tozawa in quite some time, at least in the terms of Raw. We've seen at least Akira Tozawa on 205 Live, but we're not seeing him on any of the other programming. But the kicker of all this, and I don't know why this, and maybe again it's just kind of the nuance of everything, and it makes you also feel like, hey, they're going somewhere with this, and it's going to lead to something down the line for Kurt Hawkins. It's the fact that when they show Kurt Hawkins in there, and you have the commentators going like, and the losing streak continues, and then they put a little graphic on there, 115 straight matches lost. I kind of lost it a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I lost it a little bit. And again, it's more on the aspect that's like, oh, they're going somewhere with this. It's not just going to be a one and done thing. It's clearly they're going to be doing a little bit more with it down the line here. So, what was next? Yes. Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar, they had an interview. The crazy thing about this one, you kind of have almost a concerned look on Brock's face throughout the entire promo, while Heyman's kind of spouting everything. But then it turns into a more confident face afterwards. So they're talking back and forth, back and forth. And you have Michael Cole asking questions, one to like Braun, one to Brock, one to Braun, one to Brock. And then Heyman eventually is like, why are you asking so many questions to Braun? You should be talking just to Brock. He is the main deal, the only reason to be around. And he does he puts over Braun as much as possible, and eventually Brock's like, he makes mention to, Paul makes mention to, you know, all he's doing is unleashing the beast. And then you get Brock basically going like, he gets real close to the camera, and then just says, thank you, Braun, for bringing this side back out of me. I've needed this for quite some time. Almost with a smile on his face. Looks like he's going to go away. Comes back into the picture frame and is like, Suplex City, bitch. Out the door. Good stuff. I like this stuff, actually. Up next, Roman Reigns comes out. Basically, he kind of goes off and calls out John Cena for not being there tonight. He wasn't going to be there that night. The interesting one was that he made a reference to Alex Riley in there, and there was a long time ago that apparently like a push with Alex Riley had been snuffed by John Cena or something in that sense. He even, and the way that he put it was like, you know what, if I looked like John Cena, I wouldn't have a career in this company. And he was like, just ask Alex Riley. It was one of those moments. And again, I will go off on it like I did last week. Maybe they're getting a little too smarky for their own good. I don't know. I personally like these kind of promos that they've been going with. He calls Cena the biggest hypocrite. Goes back to a promo he had done on The Rock quite some time ago, and saying that, oh, now you're doing the exact same thing as he did. And that he was going to end up winning at No Mercy, everything in that sense. It wasn't a very long promo. It was kind of effective for what it was. Again, they may be getting a little too smarky for their own good. I'm not 100% certain on that, though. Up next, we got a lot of interviews going here to go along with everything. It's one of those bits that you got a lot of interview time after that Kurt Hawkins match in general, which is kind of weird. Yeah, you did get a lot of interview time. But up next was the Hardys interview, basically talking about the six-pack challenge that night and how if they have to, they'll fight each other if they need to gain a shot at the Intercontinental title. Matt kind of doing small little references again to the Broken character as much as he can, as much as he's allowed, or as much as they will allow him, I don't know, on that side of it. But yeah, okay interview, nothing really special to talk about, just kind of getting over the six-pack challenge a little bit more. Up next, you had Bray Wyatt going up against, not Goldust, Dustin Rhodes. And they even make a point Yeah, he had the Goldust Titantron and the music and everything in that sense, but they make a point of introducing him as Dustin Rhodes. Okay. Okay on that one. I'll give them that. I'll give them that one on that one. The match was a fine match. Goldust gets a little, or Dustin Rhodes gets a little bit more offense in than he did the week before. But Bray Wyatt eventually picks up the victory with the Sister Abigail. And then Finn Balor pulls a Bray Wyatt and is like, I'm going to do a promo from the Titantron. I'm just going to appear here and I'm going to do a promo from about their match at the pay-per-view. With him basically saying that you called the demon an extension of a person. So who ends up being more dangerous? The actual demon or the creator of that demon? And kind of trying to play a little bit of a, what is it? A little bit of Bray Wyatt mind games in terms of his promo work on that one. It was an alright promo. I did kind of like it, and they're playing it off as that Finn's not going to go out there as the demon persona. He's going to do this as just normal Finn Balor, everything in that sense. So, a good way of going. So, before we get into the last little bits of everything, like I said, before we get into all that, right after this, and they've been doing this throughout the night, they have been showing like Twitter messages and everything in that sense throughout the night for Bobby the Brain Heenan, him passing away the day before, and basically doing small little tributes here and there throughout that time frame. This does culminate eventually with them showing in an absolutely amazing video package of everything that Bobby the Brain Heenan had done, at least on WWE's side of everything. I'm old enough to say that I got to watch some of that stuff live, not just in WWF at the time, but his WCW times. And there was some times in WCW that he was really, really good. He was absolutely amazing the entire time he was in WWF. But there was, you knew there were certain points where he was kind of not phoning it in. He was just kind of phoning it in WCW times. But that's just what it was, because he didn't end up liking it. And there was a lot of people that phoned it in WCW. You could just tell they were there to just collect the paycheck at that point. But even though you knew that about him, he was still witty. He was still on the ball with a lot of things, even during his WCW days. And he was always at least funny, or had some kind of good remark to go against the babyface, because he was the heel guy and everything in that sense. The stuff he did with Gorilla Monsoon, it makes you wonder, is like, how did Gorilla Monsoon always get like the worst commentator thing? Because two of them together, which they were always together, was absolutely great stuff on every side. Both of them always played off well on each other. You even heard that during his speech with Bobby the Brain Heenan's speech for his Hall of Fame speech. Just really good stuff. Like I said, I was very young when I got to watch all that stuff with Bobby Heenan. So when you're younger, it's like you're playing the whole babyface heel thing and everything to go along with it. It was, even at that time, kayfabe was kind of protected still a little bit, even though it was kind of slowly dying away. So you grew to appreciate even more the factor that he could go out there and just make you not like this guy. He was funny. You could laugh at his jokes, but you knew he was doing something like but he could also instantaneously make you dislike him as well. Like, he would come up with this funny joke, and then all of a sudden he would come up with a reason for you not to like him, or something along with that. He was probably one of the best performers out there, and like I said, I probably appreciate his work more now than I did as a kid. Just on the aspect of, when you're a kid, you think a little bit differently. Like I said, kayfabe's maybe not completely destroyed at that point in time. So, really good video package for Bobby the Brain Heenan. Of course, hate to see someone pass away. He did die at the age of 73, so if there's any solace to it, he did lead a pretty good life, a long life, and everything. And just like everything, just like with everything else, heart goes out to his family. Prayers, everything in that sense, go out to his family. He was a big family guy from what people have always been saying of him. So you know that probably hit the Heenan family pretty hard. But yeah, like I said, if there's any solace to it, he led a long life, and he led a pretty good one. So yeah, like I said, I was glad to see that video package. Glad to see that video package for About the Brain Heenan tonight. So back onto everything. Back onto everything else that was on Monday Night Raw. Up next was Enzo. Enzo comes out. He was starting to cut a promo on Neville, and lo and behold, it's like, okay, he's like, maybe, I don't even think midway through his promo, starts saying how he's going to take the Cruiserweight title from Neville at the pay-per-view, and all of a sudden you hear, Braun! And Braun just barrels out there and destroys Enzo. Takes him down the ring, chucks him into the ring through the second rope, then does a running power slam, and then just walks off. And just walks off. Neville comes out afterwards because apparently he's going to have a match with everything, and just decides to rub salt in the wounds. It's like, he just kind of looks at him, and you get that little smarky grin and everything that he does. He does such a good job of his heel mannerisms and everything, and it just adds some salt to the wounds by hitting him with a red arrow. When they come back from commercial break, you have Enzo backstage getting ice, basically saying he's going to take the title from Neville at the pay-per-view. I'm not 100% certain on that. I don't mean that based off the fact that he got beaten down. I just don't think they'll put that Cruiserweight title on him yet. At least that's how I feel. I don't feel like they'll do that yet. So, but this does lead to a match next with Neville going up against Grand Metalik. This is actually a really good match. Neville at some point in time tears the mask of Grand Metalik, and the thing that I like about this, he does play off that whole aspect of the mask being a very big thing for luchadors. He goes ballistic and goes off on Neville after this and gains control for a little while. Eventually, Neville picks up the victory with the Rings of Saturn, but I like the aspect that they let him fire up a little bit when the mask tore, or that was just something he decided to do in general. But it was just one of those bits. It's like, okay, they allow him to kind of have a little bit of personality. It's like he tried to take his identity away from him at that spot, and he went off on Neville. So, like I said, decent match. It was a pretty good match in that sense. Neville, like I said, eventually goes over with the Rings of Saturn, and yeah, it was also nice to see a little bit of a little bit more personality out of Grand Metalik to go along with it, because they've kind of just had him be there. They haven't really had him try to show personality or anything in that sense, in the terms of character-wise. And that is a little bit hard when you're underneath a mask and everything to go along with it, but it is what it is at that point in time. So, this leads us to the main event of the night, which was that six-pack challenge that I said before for #1 contendership for the Intercontinental title at No Mercy. So it was Elias who sang a song beforehand and eventually gets interrupted before by the Hardys. Good stuff on stuff from Anaheim again, or not Anaheim, but San Jose. Just some really good stuff from Elias. I like the gimmick. I like where they go with it, and you can kind of tell he's getting a blast doing everything he's doing. So it was Elias, both the Hardys, Matt and Jeff, Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, and Jason Jordan. This is a good match. This was a good six-pack challenge. I was a little bit wary of this one. They did play off the Hardys as like, oh, are they going to work together? And then almost immediately they turned on each other in this match. Jeff tries to go for the pin on Matt initially, which does play up a little bit later where Matt tries to go up on a pin on Jeff Hardy as well. You also have Miz and the Miz Taraj with Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel kind of working together. They don't really break off at any point in time. But eventually, Miz gets himself involved because he was down at ringside. He gets rid of Jason Jordan. And then even later on in the match, he interrupts a pinfall with Jeff Hardy. Basically, he's like, this guy's a big threat because he almost took the Intercontinental title the week before. So trying to get rid of all of that. This eventually does lead to Jason Jordan picking up the victory on Curtis Axel with that, launch up, his launch up neck breaker. And Miz, of course, looking bewildered and everything in that sense. He eventually... they eventually go face to face after the match, and Jason Jordan kind of goes after Miz and hits a couple suplexes, but he gets beaten down by the Miztourage, and then eventually gets laid out with a skull-crushing finale where Miz basically said at the end, and this is all paraphrasing the Miz. He was like, there's going to be 3 things after No Mercy that are guaranteed. 1, Kurt Angle's still a bad father. 2, I will be the IC champion still. And 3, you'll still be a bastard. It's like, oh, okay. Miz, you're good. You're good at being you're good at being that heel. And we've said it for the longest period of time. He's great at being the heel, and just adding a line like that, and the fact that they even really allowed him to go with a line like that, was just icing on the cake. The fact that he's trying to add some more importance to this match than there probably was beforehand. So, with that being, I think that's pretty much everything for Monday Night Raw this week. Yeah, that is. That's how they ended up going off the air, like that, in general. But overall, if it was just that first hour, well, outside of the opening segment and everything, the opening couple segments there, it wasn't all that good. But afterwards, there was little nuances and everything, and it just built up over time. And I thought it ended up being a pretty good Raw down the stretch there. You had some decent matches in there. That 6-pack challenge was actually a really good match. I know it's leading to Jason Jordan and Miz, and some people aren't necessarily digging that, but we'll see where they go with everything. We'll see where they go with everything on this one. I thought some of that stuff at the beginning was kind of just thrown together and everything in that sense, and it didn't really come off all that well because of the fact that it felt thrown together that's what it felt like at the last second. Especially even though the triple threat tag match was really good, it felt like it was thrown together and didn't really serve much of a purpose in any way. But the rest of the night, I thought it was at least decent to really good to go along with it. I like the Strowman stuff with Lesnar and also the Strowman stuff with Enzo. I thought that came off really well. And like I said, the 6-pack challenge was also really good to go along with it. So yeah, that's basically it for Monday Night Raw this week. So I thank you guys for watching this week. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will see you guys next time. Later.